This is a quick video on a Sega Master System 2 repair, purchased from eBay, spares and repairs. It was listed as not working, it doesn't power on, and the fact that it had been modified as well. I don't have a Sega System Master 2, do have a Sega Master System but not a 2. So there's a composite video that's been added, and the little switch on the back I think is a 50-60 Hz mod. So inside, sort of two sets of wires, one going down to the bottom of the board, which I think is the 50-60 Hz mod, and wires at the top for the composite and audio. So first step was to try and work out how far power was getting. So this is me checking power to the switch. I can see 9 volts coming into the switch. I could see less than 9 volts going to the voltage regulator, and nothing to speak of anyway, coming out of the voltage regulator. So voltage regulator was definitely suspicious, and that was going to be my first port of call. I thought I'd just check to see if it was running hot, and it was. It was very hot. So that was the first thing to do, was change the voltage regulator and see where we went from there. The RF metal shield sat on top of the voltage regulator, and that was obviously used to disperse the heat. So it didn't actually have a separate heatsink, it used the whole shield to spread the heat. Alright, so let's get this motherboard out and get this voltage regulator replaced. The motherboard's fairly straightforward, few screws holding it down. The only ones to be wary of are there's 2 screws either side of the cartridge connector. Obviously in this case there were a lot of wires for those modifications that I was trying not to disturb at this point. Voltage regulator, 3 pins, bit of flux on there, and then using the desoldering machine, just get rid of that solder and lift the voltage regulator out. The voltage regulator was a 7805, which is fairly standard. I had one of those already, so didn't have to wait for any parts. Just needed the legs bending so it would sit nice and flush once it went in. Pushed it into the original holes, screwdriver just to prop the board up and hold the regulator in place while I soldered it, and then solder it in place. One of the pads was lifted a bit, which made things a little bit complicated, but I was able to scrape away the board and get a new contact quite easily. So that was it, right? New voltage regulator, everything should start working. But that wasn't the case. And I've turned the sound up here because it's quite important. I was getting voltage in again into the regulator, but I was getting no voltage out of it, and no voltage anywhere on the board at all, other than up to the point where the voltage regulator was. So I switched to continuity mode and started checking around, and things didn't look right. I was getting continuity in places that I wasn't expecting continuity, and here you go. You can see I'm moving there between the middle pin, which is the ground, and the pin closest to the middle of the motherboard, which is the 5 volts. And there was continuity, which meant there was a short somewhere. So I had a look over all of the board, I couldn't see anything obvious, so I thought I would strip it back and take these mods off. So here you can see I have desoldered all the wires that were added for the 2 different mods. Still got the new voltage regulator in place, that hasn't changed. Now all the wires are disconnected, tested continuity, and the short had gone away. So now this is the power on test with the new voltage regulator and me not getting any short. So what I'm doing is I'm just holding the voltage regulator just to make sure it doesn't get overly hot, because I haven't got the heat shield in place. I've obviously disconnected the composite mod, so I'm having to go through RF here. I'm just tuning the TV in while I hold the voltage regulator to make sure it doesn't overheat, and there you go, got a picture. So that's it fixed. So one of these mods, even though when I was looking I couldn't see anything obvious, one of those mods had definitely caused the short, which was stopping this thing powering up, and the original broken voltage regulator as well. So the next bit was to start to add things back. So initially I worked on the composite video, so I've put the mod back in place, worked out what pin it needed to go to on the board, reattached the ground connection, and added the composite pin. And I've now got the TV plugged in via composite, and that works, so that's all good. So next I needed to work on the sound. So the sound was a little bit harder. Not quite sure where they originally put it into, but I've gone for the chip. The chip on this one was a lot smaller than all the reference pictures I saw on the internet. Very small pin to solder the wire to. You can't really see it very clearly because it's not in focus, but very, very small pin for the audio out. So new wire, and then this is the test for the sound. So that's good, got sound. Now I turn my attention to the 50-60 Hertz mod, and I didn't get very far with this. So I forgot to film it, but this is the mod that was on the board. It's connected to this chip. I think the mod, you have to cut one of the long legs, and then you basically use the switch to send the pin either to high or low. When I took the glue away, the leg of the chip just came away. So whether it was me removing it or it was just broke, I'm not sure. But there was no pin left. There was nothing for me to solder to. Not desperate for 50-60 Hertz mod, so I left it in place. I just cut the wires back, left the switch, otherwise there's going to be a hole in the board, and I'm happy to live without it. So I've now got a working Master System 2. This is me testing it now with an EverDrive style cartridge, just to make sure that the cartridge slot works and it can load games. But for the sake of £11 I think it was in total for the machine and the postage, got a working machine, so very, very happy. I'll leave Paperboy playing out. Thank you for watching.